Thanks, Jen. In order for us to reopen businesses and the economy, health experts say that we need science and data. We need testing and contact tracing. So can our smartphones help us to effectively track and trace the spread of the coronavirus infections? Our next guest believes so. Micha Benoliel is the co-founder of the Coalition Network app. Welcome, Micha, to the show.
Hi, Eileen.
So Micha, tell us, let's just dive right in. Tell us, how does Coalition work?
It's a very simple app that is going to help you record all your interactions with people. So when you meet people who have this application, the Coalition app, automatically you don't have to do anything. The app will record the time you spent with people and when you were in proximity with them. And in the event someone in your community, your family, your friends, or the group of people you meet regularly, if someone basically is tested positive, then automatically the app will alert you that you have been in contact with someone who was infected. So it's a way really to prevent basically the pandemic, and it's a way to let you know if you have been in contact with the virus, so you can act faster.
Great. So tell us about the technology. I understand it's Bluetooth enabled as opposed to location based. Can you tell us a little bit about the different models and how Coalition uses Bluetooth technology to help stop the spread?
So when you launch the app, each time you encounter someone, it will exchange an anonymous random identity with the other phone, and that information gets stored on your phone and stays on your phone with the time you spend with that person. So no information leaves your phone. So with Bluetooth tracing technology, that information stays with you. Only if you declare that you are infected, then at that point this information gets shared. So only your random identities with other people who have the app, and that's how the app is able to receive that information and check if it was in contact with someone who was infected, and then in that case alert you.
Okay, that's great. Now tell us about the accuracy of this Bluetooth technology. How close do you need to be to someone, or how long do you need to spend time with them? Like if you're in the grocery store, how long before the technology can make a connection?
So these are two different points. One, in terms of distance, we can know very accurately when you are within 6 feet with someone, which is great because that's actually the distance when you start to be in danger if you have spent some time with someone who was infected. When it comes to the epidemiologic model, it's going to improve. We need a lot of input from epidemiologists, but we can tune it according to the information we get from various epidemiologists. Most probably it will be after spending 5, 10 or 30 minutes with someone in a close distance that the app will alert you.
I see. And how does someone, for example, declare that they may have an infection?
So today it's a self-declaration. Users can simply, if they have been tested positive or if they have been asked to stay at home because they have the symptoms, they can just self-declare themselves. And in the future, we are working with labs and doctors, so users will communicate a random identity, and when the lab gets your results, automatically it will change your status in the app and let you know if you have been tested positive or negative.
And that's so interesting. You've mentioned this a number of times. It's generating a random identity. Many people have privacy concerns about downloading an app and where is the data going. And so it's interesting you've mentioned these random identities. Does this mean that this is privacy by design?
It is made with privacy by design. When we saw in mid-March, when we started the confinement, we saw what Singapore did, and my team and I felt that we were very compelled to actually bring a solution that would work, because we know Bluetooth technology for more than 10 years, and we have been working with apps that use Bluetooth for more than 10 years. But also we felt very compelled because we have a good knowledge of modern cryptography, so we were able to build and design a protocol that protects people's privacy, and that was one of the reasons why we worked around the clock to bring this solution to the market.
That's great, Micha, and I'm curious about these other initiatives that we keep reading about in the headlines. There's the Apple-Google initiative that's to be released soon, as well as the MIT project. Can you tell me, does Coalition, is that compatible with these systems? How are they siloed? Can you tell us more about how Coalition interacts with these systems?
So that's a very good question. It's very important because when people are going to travel, you don't want to have to download a new app each time you go in another state or another country. So Coalition is open sourced. All the code and the app is pushed into a non-profit foundation. And it's going to be very easy for other applications to actually be interoperable with the Coalition app. We are also working with the team on the decentralized server architecture, so anyone will be able to use it to actually store these random infected identities so they can be shared with the greater number, and that way enable interoperability. That's something that's very important, and we keep on improving the system and working on this.
Okay, you mentioned interoperability a few times. Can you just define that for us, just because we are more, we may not know all of the technical terms?
So that means that if two mobile applications from two different publishers are next to each other, you want these apps to be able to communicate with one another and be able to alert the other person in the event you get infected later. So it means compatible. It means that wherever you go with this application, with the Coalition app, then you will be able to be alerted if you have been in contact with people who were next to you, who were infected, even if they don't use Coalition app and use another app.
And why is this so important, Micha? Why is it so important that we download a digital contact tracing app?
So it's very, very important, because if you want to do a good job at tracing the COVID-19 in America, you will need to do 100 million tests a day. So it's practically impossible to do that. The big advantage is when you scale manual contact tracing with digital tracing, which is a way to actually scale this contact tracing effort. You can potentially reduce that number by a factor of 10. So we will need less than 10 million daily tests to do a good job. And that means that it starts to be more realistic.
That's really fascinating, Micha. And I understand Coalition has been speaking with a number of cities and governments. Can you tell me more about your partnerships?
Absolutely. So we are working with the city of Berkeley. We partnered with the government of France to help them on the Bluetooth stack for their own mobile application, and also potentially to help them with a decentralized protocol for better privacy. We partnered with in Africa with the Senegalese government that is going to use the Coalition app and the design and the whisper tracing protocol we developed. So it's we are having also requests from universities, other cities in America, and some other governments.
You mentioned universities, and I understand there may be enterprise applications as well. Can you tell me about how you're evolving the technology?
Absolutely. So we realized that in many cases, especially for certain categories of workers or employees, sometimes they do a job where they cannot have a smartphone with them. So in that specific situation, they will need a specific device. So we developed a specific device that workers will be able to have with themselves that does the exact same job as a smartphone, but without the need of having a smartphone always with you.
That's very interesting. And also, I wanted to ask, we're running out of time, but I did want to ask you, there is some reluctance or resistance from the American people just in regard to trusting, technology and sharing their data. What message would you want to share with someone who is reluctant to download an app like this?
I think it requires some education, but people will quickly realize that you can have an app installed on your phone that doesn't share the information that the app is generating. And actually with the Coalition app, you don't have to enter any personal information. And we insist on saying to the user that all the information stays on the phone and never leaves the phone unless they get infected. In that case, what they share are just anonymous random identities. So nobody can do anything with it except other people who have the mobile application that can compute on the phone to see if they spend time with someone who was infected. But what I want to say is it's very important, because the same way you go out now and you wear a mask when you go to a public place, the same way you're going to wash your hands when you come back home, these apps are going to help protect you, protect your friends, your family, your coworkers. So it's very important that we take the habit of using them.
It sounds like a very important tool to help protect ourselves going forward. And we are asking all of our guests during this time, how are you, Micha, getting through the great pause?
Well, I thought I would have more time to read and by myself, but when we started the Great Pause, we actually started to work on this project. And it has been, we have been very busy, working around the clock to bring a protocol to protect people's privacy, and also to bring this mobile application, the Coalition app, and help more governments, more cities to adopt these technologies.
That's great. Is there anything else you want to share with us before we have to run?
I encourage everyone really to start using a contact tracing app. And what I can share is imagine if we had these tools before this pandemic arrived. We probably would have avoided what's happening now, where we're all stuck at home. And now the economy is really hurt. And with these tools, we can avoid that to happen again in the future.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Micha. We really appreciate your educating us on how your technology works and all of your hard work. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, Eileen.
Thank you again for joining us, Micha. Now back to you, Jen.